set up an environment where they could do something like I do, which is record all my notes for lectures in Markdown, so that they could actually have notes themselves and be able to get this nice preview on the right-hand side. So I use Atom to do this. As you can see here, it's a macOS app. It runs for all sorts of other operating systems as well, of course, but I tend to use it everywhere, and it's really nice for working with Markdown, and especially nice for getting this really nice preview. So let's start. So this is a sample lecture from CS230, my module on web development. But let's have a look now at getting Atom. So the first thing we need to do is go to atom.io, okay, and then it should default to your operating system. And you can see this one defaults to macOS for me. And so you can download and install Atom, and you're good to go with Atom initially. That's the first step. Now, if you've got Windows, you'll see a different download here. If you've got Linux, but you need to have that installed. Okay, so let's go back to Atom. So now that we have Atom in place, I can make changes to this document, and we get this live update. It's really nice, So it's good when we have the live update here on the right. It's useful. You can hide or get rid of that, and you can have a look at the preview. So if I just close the preview, then I can say, well, how do I get this from my Markdown? And Markdown are just simple markup tags that you can add to your document. So we'll have a look at that next, but let's get working with this first. So one of the things that we want to be able to look at is we have to install a package. So the package that I've installed is Markdown Preview Enhanced. And that's a package that we installed for Atom. So I'm going to toggle the preview here, and I can get the preview straight away of the document that I've been looking. So that's how I'm making this happen. So essentially, I'm just using the editing functionality within Atom. I have a file that I'm saving in as a .md file. I'll just save that again, and then I use the package Markdown Preview Enhanced in order to be able to look at the previews. Now you can do something in here, like you can print and do all sorts of fun things to get that in a nicer format as well, or you can get HTML or Share, whatever you want. There are other ways of converting from Markdown to HTML or PDF, any other format you might like. Pandoc is a great tool for doing this. But anyway, so what we need to do now is, how do I get this package? Okay, Markdown Preview Enhanced. Well, we need to go to the settings, and on macOS, I click on preferences here, but you can get your settings, and in the end, you end up with a settings tab. And midway down to the settings tab, you see something called packages. So you can click on packages, and then you can search for your packages. Now mine are installed, so it gives me a list of a lot of packages installed here, but you can see that there's a community package called Markdown Preview Enhanced, and I have it installed, so I can update this actually. So you can search here for Markdown Preview, and you'll see that it'll become available to you. And this is for the installed one. If I want to install a package, I need to go and I can search for a package to install. Anyway, this is my one. I'm going to update this. It's kind of useful to have it updated. It's a while since I've done this. And so I can install a new package if you want. It's still in the process of updating. If you want to know a little bit about this, you can always go and have a look at the package detail page. So this is available on Markdown, and this is about Markdown, and it tells you a little bit about Markdown itself, but how to install this package for Atom and install for VS Code. So you can go along to that package information page and try that yourself. Okay, so it's still doing its update thing now, so we let it go happily with this. Okay, so I need to restart, as you can see, in order to make it work. So I'll just restart. And okay, so here we are. It's good, and I'm up to date. I still don't have the preview here just yet, but I can I can pick up the preview easily. Okay, so that's the basics. So if you have notes from me, for example, you can just add your own information, like changes to those notes, like I did with this little piece of change to the header here. So we've got Markdown. So here we have Markdown. This is a Markdown header, Markdown table here, and this is the commands in markup to make the Markdown header. So I'll tell you a little bit about that a little bit later. But for now, you can see that if you have HTML in your Markdown, the previewer will actually render the document for you as well, quite nicely. So that's really good, actually. So we can look at that. Lots of ways of doing this. So now let's look at how we might improve this for ourselves. So Atom will work on your operating system, and with every you can also use VS Code, of course. I do everything with VS Code, just in the same way that you've done with Atom. But I just tend to use Atom for this one. So what I would recommend then is let's have a quick. Next thing you need to do is there are other tools. You could look at one called Markdown It, which is really nice, and it has a nice demo online for all the various kinds of commands for Markdown. So you can go to markdownit.github.io, and you can see all of the Markdown commands and how they're rendered. In fact, you could just use this if you wanted to generate some Markdown yourself, and it's very, very nice. So here's how you make tables, for example, with Markdown. So you insert links, how you insert images, and there are also some plugins that you can use as well if you want. So it's a very, very nice option. So, and it's a demo, and you can just go there and use it. And I have it as a bookmark because it's a quick way of remembering how to do all the Markdown. You can make slides with Markdown as well, for example. And one thing that I like to do is I like to use slides that are written in Markdown rather than use PowerPoint sometimes. So if I'm somewhere and I want to quickly make notes, I can record on my notes quickly in Markdown, and I can immediately make some nice slides from them, and then use these slides in the presentation. So, if you're in a group-based scenario where you have meetings, you're working on a team, and then you want to produce some slides at the end of that discussion, you can take all your notes in Markdown and easily create something. Hacker Slides is a brilliant way to do this. I'll give a little bit of a lecture on making slides and a little bit later for you as well. But it works really nice, and you could look and try this one out as well. And the nice thing about it is you can have your Markdown code here, and you can just generate straight up Markdown like you did in Atom, or you can have these slides, and you can print these slides. One of the things that's really useful is that, of course, is that you could do some apps, and everybody tends to have devices these days like mobile phones, and one of the things that would be really useful would be to be able to have your notes in Markdown that you create with your Atom, but then save them somewhere, save them everywhere. So you might not be at your machine that you use for coding. So a good thing to do perhaps is to be able to get yourself an app that you can actually look at your notes anywhere, and across all devices. So I use Windows machines, I have iOS devices, I have macOS devices. I still want to be able to access the various notes. So one way to do this would be to maybe install an app, simplenote.com, SimpleNote. It's app.simplenote.com, and you'll find it for you. And you could go to wherever you install your apps. So I searched for SimpleNote in my app store on macOS and found this. I got it installed. It's entirely free, and there's no in-app purchases or any of that kind of stuff there. So you have to worry about that. So I installed this for macOS, but I also have an account created online, in a browser. So it means you can actually store and have all your notes that you might want for your lectures. You could organize them, group them, and so forth. So this is just the standard one that came, the welcome to note, another one. And here's a note that I made in Markdown. It's a very simple note, and you can see it has very simple Markdown. It has a hash here that tells me I've got a new header, and I've got a bolding here. You use 2 stars for bolding with Markdown. So really this is Markdown, but you want previews. So we can preview by toggling and looking at the preview. So now we can see the previews here. We can see the headers here. You'll notice that it didn't give me the icon that we saw because Markdown doesn't really help with this, even though Markdown It does allow you to be able to do that. So not all Markdown viewers or renderers or previewers will do the kind of things you want to be able to do, and I deliberately included this for you to have a look. But it's nice you have this view, so you can switch nicely between this and and this, and you can use a keystroke to do this, of course, as well. And here's the lecture that I had earlier, and it's rendering the lecture really, really nicely. So you could have your notes, and it works quite well for that kind of stuff, and it's good. So you could save your lecture notes or your own notes notes here, and then you could do all the printing and have all that functionality that comes with Simple Note. So you could bypass Atom entirely if you wanted, and just use this. But I wanted to show you what I do, but I also wanted to show you some alternatives. So now, the beauty about Simple Note is that you can use it anywhere, really. So once it's here, so if I use Atom, my notes are just in Atom. I need to crank up this machine and have it working. But if I'm using a different Mac, it's not as easy for me to be able to get at that note or that document unless I've got it on a shared drive and I'm just loading it and updating the shared drive or something. So one thing I could do then is I could look at having it on my device. So here's an iOS device, and I've got Simple Note installed on this. And if I click Simple Note, you can see that I have my notes here. So it just picked up the notes. And as I made a live change, I could make a live change here, for example, and I could get back to my iOS device and have a look at that node. Okay, so here's my node, and I will change it slightly, actually nicely. Oh, I've got the preview. Okay, so I've got my notes here. It works really nice. Have my Markdown. So now let's go back to my app, and yeah, I've got my live update here. So in principle, you could actually, have something like this in class and take short notes with your phone and work from there. So now one of the things that's interesting, you might say, well, how do I get the preview here? Because this just looks like Markdown. Well, I can swipe to the right, and I can get my preview on my iOS device. And you can see that I have the bolding happening here, and I have my header here. So it works fine. And I can just click back, and I'm back to my notes. And I can go back to all notes. And you can see as well that if I look, and I can swipe through, and now here's my lecture. And I get all of the notes that I had previewed, and it can be anywhere. So it works really nicely for us. And if I switch over to my other iOS device, so here's my other iOS device, and I have Simple Note running on this one as well, and I can see it working nicely on this device too, and I can get my preview, and it works really well. So that's a little bit about using these. So I'd recommend Atom, very nice. Install the Markdown Preview Enhanced package to get it working. Alternatively, you can use this online solution here, but you need to do some checks to see what actually works. So, I could create a new note. So yeah, what I do is I'd look here, I'd select everything that's in here, for example. So this is kind of, this would be the best example. So I would copy all of this. Okay? I would go to Simple Note. I would create a new note. And I'd give it a nice header here. I paste everything here. So this is it. I need to let it know that this note has Markdown. And yes, sure, it has Markdown enabled. So that's good. And once I've done that, I can look at the preview, and now I can see the preview. So it gives me a preview, and you could have a note that contains all of the Markdown for you. So like somebody who's watching Star Wars cat or Star Wars, yeah, nice. But there's anyway. This all works really nicely, and you can check and see if it works as you would expect. And you can pin notes, to give you the top note if you're working with something for a particular lecture or sharing. This doesn't have the sharing aspect, and that's another dimension, of course, that you may be interested in. But it works really nicely, and I certainly recommend you having a look at this. Okay? Thank you very much for watching. I'll I'll produce another couple of short lectures, one on Markdown specifically, and one on making slides for you. Thanks again. Goodbye.